For this last video in the module, we want to talk about the importance of reflection and adjustment. So at this point, we've talked you through all the ways that you're going to plan your unit and your lessons so that they all make sense in having your students master the skills and concepts that you're responsible for in that unit. When we talked about formative assessment, something that we want to come back to is the fact that formative assessment gives you data. We said that. This is the video where we talk a little bit about what do you do with that data. So say that you're teaching, you ask your students to do something called an exit ticket. An exit ticket is a very simple teacher asks a question, students write it down on an index card, and they hand it to the teacher on the way out their door. You're home, you're reading through your exit tickets, and you realize this did not go well. My students are not able to answer this question correctly. This is where that adjustment piece comes in. You can look at that information, you can reflect on it, and now you have two choices. One choice is you can walk in tomorrow, pretend nothing's different, and keep marching right on through your curriculum. The other choice is you can be responsive to the students and what they've communicated to you through that exit ticket. You know they don't get it, so now what happens next? So when we talk about this idea of adjustment, this is what we're talking about. You look at that piece of data, you look at that exit ticket, you realize my kids didn't get it, and that piece of data fundamentally shifts your next steps in your classroom the next day. Instead of going what your previous plan was, you create time and space to ensure that your students actually grasp the concept, that they actually are learning it in a way that is tangible to them and is going to affect their understanding long term. And you use that adjustment to make sure that you're making connections between what they've already learned, what they need to know now, and what you're going to build on in the future. So reflection is an incredibly powerful tool that teachers use. You're always reflecting on the communication that your students are giving you, verbal, nonverbal, in where they are in their learning. Please don't skip this step when we talk about lesson planning. This is probably, arguably, one of the most important steps after the whole idea of setting the intention with your learning objectives, criteria for success, and summative assessment. Because here's where you make those teaching moves. You're not here to just present information to kids. You're here to get them to learn in a way that is meaningful and impactful. As you reflect on their progress, you're able to take the next best step to meet them where they're at. So using reflection as a set apart thing that you do after every class is going to be incredibly important for you. It'll allow you to have a better gauge of your kids, and it'll allow you to make better choices the next day. Don't skip out on that and miss all the gains that it can provide you and your students. So as we close out this module, let's revisit what we've talked about. In that first video, we talked about the importance of a plan. Remember, that plan is going to make you a more engaged, more thoughtful, mindful practitioner. You'll be able to think through your lesson ahead of time so that you have carefully planned pieces of that lesson, and it's not just you having to kind of dance on your feet as you're rolling out instruction to kids. In that second video, we talked about grounding that plan. That grounding comes through our learning objectives, criteria for success, and the summative assessment. In that video, we introduced that concept of vertical alignment. We want all the instruction we provide. We want all the resources that we use. We use all the instructional activities that we're going to employ in our classrooms. We want all of those things to be really tailored in on getting our students from not understanding a concept to understanding a concept. And so that topic of vertical alignment is one where we consistently ask ourselves, do all of these make sense in our learning plan? After we talked about our learning objectives, criteria for success, and summative assessments, we went on to our materials selection. We talked about selecting high quality materials that would allow our students to engage in grade level appropriate thought and work. After we gathered our materials, we talked about what are our actual instructional strategies and moves. What are we doing with these things to allow students to be successful? We talked about teacher-centered versus student-centered versus hands-on. How are we making sure that we're providing opportunities for all of our learners in the classroom? And how are we employing formative assessments throughout? So remember, formative assessments, we said, are those things that are going to happen through all of that instruction to give you as the teacher feedback on how your students are progressing. They are the data that you use to make adjustments for students the next day. After we talked about our instructional activities and formative assessments, we talked about the importance of differentiation. Knowing full well that there's lots of different students that are getting ready to walk into your room. And those differences should be celebrated. But those differences also mean that you have to be mindful of each of them as an individual. There is no one activity that you're going to do that's going to reach all of your learners, and that is okay. It is your power as a teacher to make sure that you're able to provide instruction to your students, all students, in a way that is meaningful for them. And then lastly, we talked about the power of reflection. After you've taught something, how do you go about thinking through that lesson, that plan, and seeing what your students are still struggling with? In that struggle, you get to decide what your next steps are. Using their information that they're giving to you through their formative assessments is going to allow you to make a better plan moving forward. So if you're looking to lesson plan, you're new to education, this is a great step to get you started to ensure that you have a cohesive plan so that you can support all of your learners. Thanks for joining us.